Yeah, I think it's recording. Okay, thank you everyone and welcome to my science journey. And this time we have Dr. Gerald Mboowa, who's currently a bioinformatics scientist at Africa CDC, and he's going to share his story with us. Welcome, Dr. Gerald.
Thank you very much, Ruth, and thank you for the opportunity you have given me. And I welcome all the individuals who are taking part in today's presentation. My name is Gerald Mboowa. I have been introduced. I work at Africa CDC, and I'm also based in Uganda. I'm based in Ethiopia, but currently I'm in Uganda. So I want to go through my science journey, and then probably I can share some insights into how it has been. You never know, someone can learn from it. Okay, so I have personal experiences, but what I can say is
Doctor, I think we've lost you. I can't hear you. You've paused. Can anyone else hear me, or is it my internet? Mark, can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear you. I think we've lost Dr. Gerald.
Oh, okay.
ready.
Yeah, we lost him from the word go.
So can you hear me now? I've tried to take off the video and see if the bandwidth can change.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but I think you should start.
Is it better now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I've taken off the video so that we have a good connection. So, like I've said, like in any other workplace, you always want to find inspirational people who can inspire your journey. So even from my side, I have people who have inspired me. So, and the past person was someone who I met in my high school. It's called Namanda Ivan, so who was a physics teacher. So that is someone who was very passionate about science and inspired me into also the same space. Following that, soon after university or even during university, the last year, I met someone called, right now is a professor at the College of Health Sciences in Makerere, who was also very passionate about what he was doing, and he contributed to this journey as well so much. And later on, the gentleman you see down here, Professor Moses Jerova, who is also still at the College of Health Sciences, who was very much inspiration in this journey. And very recently, a gentleman who is also a professor at Makerere University, called Professor Nelson Sowankambo. So ideally, that's where the inspiration to fall in love with science starts. And what I've learned along the way is, like in any place, you will always find people who are willing to give you advice, but always be in a position to have what we call advice filters. Not everything that you're told you may be comfortable doing, because even the person who probably doesn't want you to succeed may also be feeling in a position to give you some advice. So always you take it upon you to select which advice to take and which not to take. That one I learned along the way. Then also second to that is prioritize people and relationships. So we normally meet so many people along the way, but again, whoever you meet, not really you give them the same bandwidth of your time. So I realized that there are particular people you will prioritize as you meet people along your career path. So that is very key also, this journey. And then also there's do old-fashioned things well, that is keeping time, keeping your word, and be kind to people. So that is something I also realized along the way, that if you're a poor timekeeper, then for many people who are very strict with their time, they may not be feeling comfortable working with you. because of just that. It may look so small, but to some serious people, not keeping time is an indicator that they are dealing with someone who doesn't respect themselves or doesn't respect others. So that is something I also learned along the way. Then I also realized that one needs to work hard first and then smart later. What do I mean by this is, in many cases, when you're in workplaces, we will always try to find people who may, of course, in most cases, they will tell you the work schedule is maybe 8 to 5, and you strictly want to be keen to that schedule. Yeah, but again, along the way, I've realized that sometimes you may not need to be strict on the times you put into your workplace. So you need to understand the environment where you are, even if the contract is strictly telling you your working hours is 8 hours a day and 8 to 5. Sometimes try to push outside that time so that you can have a little more that you can put on the table and achieve compared to anyone else. Because in most cases, we have local competition at workplaces where you may be maybe 5 different people doing the same job, but because of the workload, at the end of the day, they may need to prioritize who can get either promotion or can get a salary increment. So those are some of the things that I realized as an individual at a workplace, one needs to push a little bit more. It is later on in life that you can try to work smarter. Smarter is like these mentors I've seen here, I've put down here, because for them, where they are at the level where they are working through others. So for them, they can afford to work in a little bit in a more smarter way because they have teams that they have built along the years that these teams can help them deliver the work or deliver on their commitment. Yeah, so then also, okay, try to see that. Own your mistakes and learn from them. That is very key. Like in any place, we always make mistakes. There is a saying that goes that mistakes are to human. So it is always very much important to own up our mistakes we make in life so that people don't have to spend a lot of time to try to make things right in our lives. So normally these mistakes can be at workplaces, they can be in our careers, but it is important for someone to accept that they have made a mistake and find a way of acknowledging and later move on. Otherwise, it can be tough because we know that life is all about learning from what we've done right and wrong in the past. Then also the fact that one needs to be self-motivated is very much important. That is one thing I've noticed because not so many times you get your boss appreciating what you're putting on the table. So if you lack the ability to motivate yourself, then within maybe months or years, you feel like giving up the job you are doing. So it is very much important to learn to be self-motivated because it is key. It will keep you going even when you are working under the worst circumstances life can present. Then also self-discipline, that still also goes back to what I talked about, managing all things right or the fashioned things right and well. So if you cannot be self-disciplined, then some of the things we do in our past catch up with us. So you have to have self-discipline in your personal life and also public life, because eventually these things come back to haunt us. Then also learning how to communicate with different people, because in our careers, we have different layers of communication. You have people who are below you, people who are the same level with you, and then people who are above you at so many levels. So at one time, each of these individuals or groups of people, they may need you to find the best way to deal with them, even communicating with them. So this is something that one has to keep working on. And of course, like I've said from the previous box, that you can make mistakes. So always learn how to deal with different people. Communicating with them is very key. And we know that people can learn so much from how we communicate to them. They can learn so much about who we are. So someone will not need to ask you so much to learn about the kind of individual that are dealing with. But the way you communicate with them will show them who you are to a greater extent. Then also emotional intelligence. This is something that I will later emphasize in some of the next slides, where like you have to get to understand what most people describe as soft skills, dealing with different people. So in any career path that anyone is taking, those attending today and maybe you have seen this. The way you deal with different people matters. There are people that from the word go, you realize that this is a sensitive person and I have to limit how I deal with them. So for some people, you realize their lives is not so much sensitive and you can try to push them a little bit further, or you can try to take jokes. So this is some of the things that one has to learn very quickly in life before you make a mistake, because sometimes mistakes can be costly. So that's part of you having the ability to use your intelligence to read situations very quickly and adjust accordingly. And then have long-term goals, build your skill set, build your professional reputation. That is very key. Being the last doesn't mean like it is less important. So having put all this in place and in context, at the end of the day, you have this job or you have this fellowship. You have to sit down and plan, how long am I going to be here? Is it what I'm going to call my whole life commitment? Or this is one of the steps I'm taking towards my end goal. So this is also something that one has to clearly look at and say, okay, if I need to be here, or if I already have an offer to work in this place, can I lay down my long-term plans? And if your long-term plans will define how you're going to deal with people, even also planning in that same place where you are in your career. So have long-term plans and build a skill set that can prepare you to fit well in your long-term plans, but also to prepare yourself for the professional reputation that you are looking at. And then always, like I said, it is not always easy to draw energy from the work we do. Today, you may have energy, 2 or 3 years later, you realize the job is boring, that you need to draw inspiration from elsewhere. So always, it is very much important to know your long-term goals, because this will determine how much energy you put in a place, but also will keep you going. If you know you are going to work in a certain position for 5 years, and you realize you are running low of energy to work in the first 2 or 6 months, then you realize that you need to do something different. Otherwise, 5 years is a long time for you to lose energy to deliver in just months. So it is always very much important for you to understand, how am I supposed to derive energy to keep going and keep doing what I'm doing. Then, like, even when we're in our workplaces or when we are in our different career paths, the opportunities that present ourselves that we need to take advantage of. But again, if you are looking at leveraging opportunities, even when you are already in your workplace, or if you are in your program, still you need to be in a position to keep yourself active in some way. Just imagine I have a job and I feel I'm going to be in this job for the next 5 years. Some jobs may not be that much flexible to give you time to go out and take courses for months or years away from work. So in such situations, feel free to take online courses depending on the career path you want to build. For people who are into maybe biostat, AP, bioinformatics, genomics, there are a number of platforms that offer online courses that can help you learn something new. Don't stay in one place year in, year out. There's no new activity you are learning, no new courses you are putting on your CV. That will be a disaster in most cases. And if an opportunity presents itself where you have to learn a new technique, if you're working in a lab that is doing sequencing, but again, you realize the opportunities to learn maybe RNA-seq or metagenomic sequencing, always take advantage of such opportunities, because you are building your skill set to help you get ready for the next career that will come your way. Then also research projects and internships. Yeah, these are very much important, even when you are into the academic space where you are just taking maybe a PhD program or a postdoc program. Still, you need to get involved in research projects. These will bring new ideas into your skill sets, but they will also give you an opportunity to meet people elsewhere and then try to include new skill sets within your network, but also making yourself a more reliable person. Because if you realize by the time you came in, you have been doing one technique year in, year out, then you are not someone who probably the program or the college can rely on. In case they get someone who can replace you at a cheaper cost, then they may feel free to replace you. So always make yourself someone who has a range of skill sets that different collaborators within your team can run to. That way, you're making yourself a little bit indispensable. Taking fellowships and attending conferences, like I've said before, this is very much important to help you build your career in a way that if you're going to spend 5-10 years in a workplace, by the time you leave that place, you are someone who is far much better than how you came in. So always apply for fellowships, attend conferences. Some conferences come with travel awards that can help you attend conferences without paying any cost. Again, in cases where you feel you cannot attend in person, then you can also take virtual workshops. In some cases, you can have virtual workshops that offer certificates of attendance. So still you take note of that. You can always attend them and build your skill set and your network. Scholarships at any time in your career path, scholarships are very key, especially if you look at building your career along research grants in future. You need to show that you have capacity and you have a reputation of winning, even things as small as scholarships for your master's, scholarships for your undergraduates, scholarships for your PhD, scholarships to attend maybe an internship somewhere. So have a history of scholarships on your CV. Those are the ones that will convince people in the future that you are someone who is worth winning a grant in a research space. So talking about grants, at different levels, you have to weigh in on which levels of grants that you're interested in. If you have never won a grant of $10,000 US, then it is very hard for you to win maybe 200,000. So anything as small as a travel award of 5K USD is very good, because it means this is someone who has capacity to win a grant. So don't undermine any form of grant or research award or nomination or recognition in any space. Always go for it, because you never know when it will be what will take you to the next level. So start with small grants, $5,000 US, $10,000 US, 15, 20, 30, before you start looking at winning grants of maybe 6 digits US dollars plus. It is not always common to find someone winning a such grant of 1 million US dollar. No. Never happens like that. Just from scratch, without having had a history of winning maybe 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. It doesn't work like that. So let's take advantage of whichever opportunity it is, and that recognition will always pay out later. So looking at now the career experience in science, from my perspective, I feel by now, or by the time you complete your undergraduate degree at the university, you know a research career you want to take on. So there are so many things that you may need to look at. Have goals. In case I want to be maybe a professor in the next 10 years or 20 years, I will know teaching is part of what I will need to have this professorship. And if not, also knowing that I need to find research grants is some of the, like on your goals, you should have an ability to say, okay, I must have hours dedicated to teach. I must have hours dedicated to applying for research grants. I must have hours dedicated to training, because you need a lab or you need a team and a network that you're going to work with to win these research grants. As a professor, you must have committed time to teach, winning research grants, but also most important, publish papers. So those are 3 key important aspects that one needs to commit themselves to if you're making your long-term goals, looking at the career path you want to choose. Then understand your strengths and weaknesses. We all have strengths and weaknesses. and understanding them helps us to work around them and become better individuals. Build a reputation of someone they can define as a serious personality. You just go back in time and say, if I wake up today and I ask myself in my team or in my class or in my group at the university or at the research group where I am, if someone asks Ruth, what do they say about so-and-so? Is Ruth going to say, so-and-so is a serious person, or so-and-so is a team player, so-and-so is a bioinformatician, so-and-so is this? So that is always very much important. How people perceive you. Is it the same way you perceive yourself? If you are not there and someone asks, who is so-and-so, will they talk about you the way you want to be talked about? Yeah, so you don't want to build a reputation where you think you are a serious person, but when you're not there and people ask, yeah, I want to talk to someone, so everyone laughs. They will say, okay, the person you want to talk to is not as serious as you may think. Because in many cases, where we are not, that's when people will talk about us well in a way that they wouldn't talk about us when we are present. So always try to build a reputation in a way that if you're not there, will people talk good about you? And what will they say? Will they say you're a biostatistician? Will they say you're an epidemiologist? Will they call you what you call yourself? That is very much important. And also build a reference base and individuals you run to get recommendations and references. The career along industry and along maybe academia and research is built so much about who is going to recommend you. If you're going to run to someone at a very local level to say, okay, I'm running to a tutor in the lab to give me a reference and a recommendation for a job or for this grant application, just know there is something that isn't right. If you have a team and there's a professor in that team, why is it that you can't go to that professor to give you a recommendation? Is it because that professor knows you as someone who is not serious, that you are sure they are uncomfortable giving you a recommendation for an opportunity you want to get? So it's very much important for you to understand that in case I wanted to apply for an opportunity, there are individuals who can give me letters of recommendation. If you think you're going to get a recommendation from your colleague in the same team, then you realize there's a problem because these letters of recommendations and references matter a lot. They are evaluated as well in case you're applying for grants, in case you're applying for like funding and scholarships. They want to look at who and in what capacity is that person recommending you. So that is very much important. And the earlier you know it, the better, because in most cases, it may be too late for you to try to paint a different picture about yourself before the people you think can recommend you for these opportunities. And always, for an opportunity you want to apply for, carefully review and apply as many as you can. It's better you have 2 or 3 offers at a time and decide on which to take or which one to take than you having none at one time. So always look up for opportunities, apply for them, but carefully read through them and understand that you have what it takes to apply for them again. Because I wouldn't want you to spend 2 hours or 2 days making an application to a call that is not within your scope, where you are too young or too early in your career for you to apply for, and you're going to spend the next maybe weeks applying for something that is going to knock you out in the screening phase automatically without your submission even going to the next level of being reviewed. So navigating the research path for people who want to take a research path. There is this picture or the graph or image, as you may call it, that I got from that publication, which was published late last year. I think it was late last year, 2022. So anyone who is in the academia, this is something that you may need to look at. I've put the details of the publication there. And you'll find yourself that each of these sectors, you need to find yourself relevant in some way. It is very much important that you try to build your knowledge base and share your knowledge, mentor others, learn how to communicate in science, in academia, publish papers, present during conferences, have posters, take some time teaching, at any level you are at, there is an opportunity for you to teach another person. Even if it is in the lab, even if it is a new technique you have learned, find a way of trying to train other people, because the more you train, the more you become good at what you're saying or what you're doing. Take time off to apply for international conferences, regional, national, mentorship, collaborate with the people outside your team, and then also try to acquire new knowledge. We have already talked about that. And be very much curious about what you are doing, and even the things that may not be within your space. It is very much important for you to understand what is going on outside your space. And there's this saying that says, if you want to go far, fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. It's an African saying that is very popular, but in so many ways, I've realized how much important it is for you. If you want to go far, you need to go as a team or go with other people along the way. Because as you grow in your career, there are people that you feel will be very much important to keep you up there where you are. These are the people that you must have come with right from down where you are coming from. So it's very much important as you grow in your path, in your career path, get some people as part of your team. They may be your colleagues that you know, in case these people, I need to do something in my maybe career, they are very supportive in some way. You look up to them in some form for you to understand what you are doing. Then selecting mentors, this is a key component in the research phase. If you remember in my first slide, I included people I had to look up to, people who inspire you. They may not be people that you often talk to, but these should be people who are within your space that you can often look at them or meet them, even if you don't have a lot of time to sit down with them, but you look at them from a distance and learn on how they are moving or dealing with their lives. It doesn't mean that you need to always sit with them down and tell them what you want to do. No, not really. It's these people that you always see, okay, I see how they do their work, how they behave, how they deliver whatever they deliver. These are people who may be silent mentors or very active mentors that you sit down with, and they will understand that you are looking up to them. Doesn't mean all the time you should meet with them and then try to brief them about what you are doing, but there's so much you learn from these people as long as you try to see them as inspiration in your journey. But of course, you need to take time and study them before you approach them. If you are to make them potential mentors, then take time and study them. Yeah, human beings are human beings. No one is perfect. But when you take time and study individuals, by the time you go to them and tell them, I want you to be my mentor, you have appreciated what they are doing right, and you have made peace with what they are not doing right. We are all human beings. We have our weaknesses. So what you think is their weaknesses, will you be in a position to overlook that weakness and look at what they are putting on the table for you? That is very much important than you establishing a mentorship relationship with someone, then later you exit without formally notifying them. It may not be trigger good emotions on the other side, because someone says, okay, you came up, appreciated what I can do, and then all of a sudden you disappear. It may be because you realize these people have weaknesses you cannot take, and you are uncomfortable telling them, there's this weakness about you that I cannot take. So always first silently study individuals, learn their strengths and weaknesses, so that by the time you go to approach them as mentors, you have made the peace with what is their strength and what is their weaknesses. Relevant knowledge, expertise, and experience. So you have to also understand what their strengths are, who they are, what are they doing, so that you don't afford to make mistakes. You got someone you're interested in chasing a career in maybe epidemiology, and the other person is totally incapable of doing anything along that space. So always take your time so that you don't look like you are unserious about what you're pursuing. Enthusiasm to impart their knowledge. Yeah, we know, like, this is part of studying them. There are people you are in a research team and you realize in their team they are only by themselves. Or you realize whoever goes to them or whoever gets them as their mentor within 1 year, they have already disappeared or they are on a bitter ground. So study them because you don't want to start something with someone and then just exit. Yet you are going to keep seeing these same individuals within the same complex where you are. So always study, and by the time you go there, you know what you want and you can put up with these people. Ability to give honest feedback. Yeah. There are people who are selfish with their feedback, or there are people who are not willing to share knowledge in any way. So if you get to know them, then don't try to even make them your mentors because it may backfire. We are different human beings. If you realize someone is not empathy, is not approachable, then don't take your risk and engage in these individuals as mentors. Because you are not going to perform miracles in their lives. Just leave them alone. And then also, do they have passion or field skills that you want to grow in? That is very much important. And it clearly goes back to the first green box we talked about. Take time, study people, so that by the time you walk into their offices, you know what they can offer and you know what you want. Yeah, there's this that we cannot escape, all of us in life, we cannot escape dealing with our mental health, which is very much key in helping us move forward wherever we are. And like everyone has to pay attention to this part of life, because if you don't, then it's very much possible that you can lose yourself. And eventually, the rest of the team will have to let you go. So take time and study your mental health. And when you realize things are not working, seek advice or seek medical attention in a way that can help you get over these mental issues that we may face in our day-to-day lives. And everyone is, no one is immune, everyone is susceptible. It is always a matter of time that these situations present themselves and we have to manage them. From my side, what I've seen from experience, taking long walks normally helps. Things get a little bit better, walking very long distances. And normally, you go into either do a forest walk or even a road walk, like tarmac road walk by yourself. Sometimes you get to see nature in a very different way. If you are in a situation where you can take a long drive away from the routine, then normally you can take that, go away from where you normally work and take a day or two off to try to get yourself to the levels where you want. So long walks, drives far from your routine, normally can help you reboot yourself. Learn to manage your expectations. Sometimes we put out of pressure on ourselves. You set targets and say, this year I must win 2 scholarships, I must win 2 fellowships, I must publish 5 papers. I mean, it is very good to have these ambitions, but again, if you don't understand yourself very well, there are people to whom failure is not something they can comfortably deal with. So don't put so much on your goal list, because in most cases, for some people who are very strict, the moment you fail to achieve what you proposed, then it's going to hit back at you in a way that you will even fail to process or perform the remaining tasks. So put very realistic expectations and learn yourself. If you are someone who failure can give a huge setback, then don't be so hard on yourself. Don't put too harsh expectations from yourself, because I mean, life is life. You may not control what you get at the end of the day. So try to manage that and learn to manage your expectations. In life, we always have what we can define, or people we define as friends, who we can trust and tell whatever we are going through. In most cases, these are not so many people. You cannot have 10 people who are your friends and you download whatever you want to download to the same length. So there is that person who you normally think knows you well and will understand you well. So everyone is very much important to find that person in your life that you think, if I told them, you know what, today I have a bad day, then I will not need to say much for them to understand the bad day. How come this bad day is showing up? If I know I was applying for a scholarship and I told you maybe within 2 weeks, I will know the feedback from this scholarship. I mean, if I tell someone, 2 weeks down the road, I have a bad day, this person should be in a position to know. Oh no, I know. Most likely it is the feedback from the scholarship you applied for And they should be in a position to find time to give you time and understand how they can help you come out of these setbacks. So that is someone you can call a friend. They don't need to be physically in your same settings. They can even be a world apart. You may be far away from each other. But these are people who know so much about what you're doing, what you're dealing with, and what you're planning to do in the next so many years. So these are people who can talk to us and we always get back to our reality. Then also it is very much tempting to think about alcohol and abusing drugs when we are in this state. So it is much important to know that we need to avoid this when it comes to this type. Don't resort to drugs, don't resort to alcohol, because these, in most cases, when you start them, you may not exit. So try to avoid them as much as you can. Then also get some rest, like I've told you about. Normally, it is very much important. Get rest. Like personally, like I've told you, I take long walks, so go away from where I am. In most cases, go somewhere very far to try to rest from the routine, because normally it's these routines that are very much disorganizing when it comes to us dealing with failures or setbacks. So always learn very early in life how to handle setbacks or disappointments, because everyone eventually will get one of them at any one time. But if you don't find a way of managing, then you may be a ticking time bomb. Maintaining relationships, this is very much important. Maintaining positive relationships with the colleagues. Yeah, we normally have people we work with. We don't work in silos. We work with people. So it's very much important to have positive relationships with people, because a bad person at a workplace will give you a bad day naturally. And then at the end of the day, you have to deliver amid such situations. So always make an effort to be in a good setting, in a good talking relationships with the people around you, because these are people we normally spend much of our time with. And if you realize things are not working out, make an effort to talk about it with people who you think the relationship is deteriorating. So always have mentors and collaborators in science. These are people who will be supportive, especially if you identify the right people to be your mentors and collaborators. They will always be very supportive. Learn how to communicate and resolve conflicts in the situations where we were, either workplace or in our programs. Learn how to deal with this, because still, like I said, it's a fact of life. You always get this. So if you cannot manage to fix what has gone wrong, then I think life will become a challenge eventually. And that last on this slide, maintaining relationships, knowing who you are, brings you purpose and meaning. If you have goals, dreams, standards, and convictions, some of these small setbacks will look minor. So you have to look at the bigger goal that you're trying to achieve. So that's very much important in life. And in most cases, normally when we set ourselves on our career path, we may not be so much in control of where we are. In most cases, you find you have to be away from where you grew up from, where you were born, and where maybe you started from, but you have to be in a position to cope with whatever is coming your way. Identify and join people, communities with shared interests. In most cases, we find ourselves far away from home, but identify things that will work for you. If it is individuals, identify people who will be very much supportive in your career, in your life, and in your maybe program. And the earlier you identify them, they're better, because it means you have started a process of coping. And reconsider your hobbies. In most cases, you have gone far from loved ones. If you have some hobbies you have not been working on in the past, try to reconsider them. Which one goes top on the list? In most cases, I find sometimes walking can clear the loneliness or the mental status. Sometimes taking long walks in parks or forests, you find what works for you anyway. But depending on where you are, you may need to a little bit adjust your hobbies for you to fit in a situation where you are. Embracing change and adjust to a new environment, that's very key, depending on where you are, how long are you going to be there? Is it a total change in life? You may need to find yourself changing what you used to do so that you can fit in that place where you find yourself in. In most cases, these are different cultures, different environments, weather is different, are you in a position to adapt to what you are going to face? And no one is always much prepared for what they meet when it comes to moving to new places, but be in a position to change and embrace change. Have a supportive friend. I talked about having someone who can define as a friend. Expressing or avoid like expressing very controversial sentiments or political polarity. In most cases, when we go far away from where we were born or where we have grown up, if you find yourself very lonely somewhere, you may be pulled into taking a political side on social media, whatever it is. So sometimes this is very much dangerous because you don't know what tomorrow may bring. You may take on, we know the governments where we come from, for most people who come from Africa, you may take on a government and one time you find yourself back home and you want to serve that same government and it has to use what you used against it so many years ago to deny you an opportunity. So as we try to push ourselves to get better in our lives, let's be careful. You may not like what is happening where you were, but again, taking it online and facing off big entities, institutions, governments may not be the best approach to take because you don't know what tomorrow may bring. You may find yourself back home under circumstances that are beyond your control and you're denied an opportunity based on what you did 5 years ago. Be professional on social networks so that people don't, again, take you for what you say or what you do or what you like and what you don't like. So even on social networks, what you say is being watched. You may not see it now, but it may be used against you later in life. So be careful on how you present yourself professionally on those social networks. Be kind and try to help create a better world. In so many ways, we can create a better world. In so many ways, including on social media or social networks, even in our communities where we are. Try to be a person who can bring positive change in wherever we present ourselves to. You may decide and say, okay, I'll take care of someone in my village where I came from. Or I'll support 2 kids to attend primary or secondary school from the village where I came from. That's being kind to nature and the world. And who knows what tomorrow can bring when you try to help someone who is far away from you. In most cases, we are comfortable helping people within our circles, but it's very much rewarding helping people far away from our circles. Be open-minded to new experiences. We never know what those new experiences can bring in our lives and career. Always create things that you always look forward to. If you live without having expectations of tomorrow and next year, then such life is very liable to depression or mental challenges. If you are living at that time, it is dangerous. Have long-term goals, because when you have a long-term goal, then whatever challenge you face in the near future, you can always overlook it, knowing that you have long-term goals that you need to keep pursuing. Meeting expectations and becoming top in your space or in your career, there are things that you may need to emphasize or need to do. Stay curious, develop critical thinking, keep learning, and don't be afraid of failure. Set goals, prioritize tasks, seek out mentors, broaden your skill set, stay organized, informed, and read widely. Experiment and learn from failure. I'm repeating that for a reason. Failure is part of life, but you have to learn to manage it and overcome it. Then also collaborate with as many people as you can. Conduct your work with integrity and adhere to ethical standards. And then always practice being patient. Yeah, there are things that are beyond your control. So what you have to do is to learn to be patient effectively communicate through articles or during conferences when you have posters and presentations, write, publish in peer-reviewed journals, if you're building a career in academia and research, maintain an updated online footprint, which may be through these different sites, LinkedIn, OKID, Google Scholar, X, or formerly called Twitter, GitHub. And then for people who can afford, having a website is good. Maintain an updated footprint, like I've already talked about that. And then there are some sites I've put here that can help you learn some ways how you can build your career skill moving forward. And I like this because it says series of small wins can give us the most significant success. I've already talked about that. Otherwise, the take-home message, be patient and persistent. Learn something new every day or every week or every month. Luck comes from hard work, and believe in yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr.
You're welcome.
That was very insightful. Thank you for sharing your story with us. So I'm just going to ask you two questions because we sort of ran out of time. But this was really insightful, and I've recorded it as for those that probably came in the middle or left before. I will share the recording later on. So two questions before I invite maybe 2 or 3 people to ask you questions. So looking back to your career and like how far you've come, do you think there's anything that you would have changed? Talking to your younger self, is there something that you would have done different?
Yeah,
And
that's a good one.
Okay. Who is this?
Feeling?
I had
Rosie, you can ask me the second one so that I can take them at a go.
Yeah, so the second one is what has, I know like you might have faced like several challenges along your career, but what is one significant challenge that you faced and how did you overcome that?
Okay, so thank you very much. The first question you asked, what has changed from the earlier version of myself? I think before that, I was putting my expectations so low. Yeah, so after doing my training, I realized I wanted to settle for something that I feel now I may not settle for looking back. By that time, I just wanted to finish university, finish a master's and a PhD and teach at the university and stop there. But I think looking back, I realized I was going to settle for less than what I can do right now. So I feel there's potential in each of us, but depending on the circumstances, by that time I was exposed to my local university. And after taking steps away from the local university, I realized I can do something at a bigger stage. So if I don't get a chance to move away from the local university, I was going to just sit at the university and say, okay, let me do the teaching and that's it. Yeah, but right now I feel I can go bigger, I can go far, I can do much more than what I can do at the university. Teaching, fine, I was planning to teach at the university. But if I can teach at the continent, this is good. But if I can take it even beyond the continent, this is very much important. Then the second question is, personally, I did my PhD in human genomics. And then I realized very quickly there wasn't going to be funding for me. If you have seen Shegun, who is one of the people I look up to, Shegun is winning grants in human genomics. And normally human genomics, the scale is in millions of US dollars because the cost of sequencing and establishing cohorts of human genomics studies, they are way up there in millions of US dollars. So initially that was my target and say, okay, I want to do human genomics studies. But I realized it was going to take a long kind of career path for me to get there. Even for Shegun, he had to stay in Sangha for some time, he had to stay in the UK for some time, build a network there for him to be in a position to do what he can do right now. So that was very much clear from the start, and I had to scale down and say, okay, what is it that is within my reach? Was the lab that was doing so much infectious diseases work, and I had to do that quickly. I just said that, and then that is the space I'm occupying right now.
Thank you for that. And the second question?
The second question, remind me the second question.
Yeah, like what is one significant challenge and how are you able to resolve it?
Okay. So the most difficult challenge was when I had to go to Texas for 3 years almost. So I had to make a decision: do I go with the family, or do I go alone? And from the start, clearly, because I had colleagues who were going to with their families. So I had to decide and say, I'm not going with my family, I'm going alone. And I had to go alone and had to stay for 3 years without anyone else and learn what I could learn.
How did you cope? I'm curious.
It is some of the things I've talked about, like I had to keep myself busy, try to learn something new every now and then. Yeah, that was a coping mechanism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a question for lecture, just raise your hand so we can have it a bit coordinated. So I'll just take like questions from 2 or 3 people because we've run out of time. Or you could type in the chat box if you don't want to speak up. So do we have anyone that wants to ask lecture a question?
No questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
No questions? Okay, I'll ask then one final question.
Okay.
So I'm not sure whether I missed this, but I'm not sure I heard you talk about how you got to Africa CDC. Could you maybe cover that? And just one additional question. What has been one strategy you've been using when applying for things like fellowships or scholarships and things like that?
I think, Ruth, what I can say from the word go, I had mentors who I think gave me a lot of freedom. So I would apply for fellowships without them limiting me, because there are scenarios where the mentor may tell you, don't apply for this, don't apply for that, don't apply for this. So my mentors were not in any way restrictive. So I would apply for anything I want. And they were very much supportive. They would say, bring a letter of recommendation, we shall just sign it. So they gave me that space to keep pushing whatever is possible. And also quickly, I learned to deal with failure, because if it wasn't the case, then everyone gets setbacks in life. But if you're going to take 3 months to recover from a setback, then I think that it can deter you in how quickly you move. So dealing with setback is one thing I learned very quickly. And then you always have to recover very fast and then apply for the next challenge. And each time, even if it doesn't mean if you have failed getting $100,000 US, don't try 200,000. No, keep putting the ante so high. Sometimes it may have been the wrong panel that reviewed your application. So don't try to say, okay, this time I'm going solo because I felt something that was up there. So that is something that I have learned along the path, that you don't have to limit yourself because you have this setback. Keep pushing higher.
Yeah, thank you. And so can you just give us a closing remark?
Okay. So the closing remarks I can give is, let's keep trying whatever opportunity comes our way, so that the decision you have is for you to decide whether you take it or not. And even the small wins are always very much important. Even if you have a poster presentation somewhere in Australia, somewhere in the US, put it on your CV. I've participated in travel awards, and I see the checklist will tell you, has this person ever won a travel award? Has he presented a poster somewhere? So these are things that we may see as minor, but in the end, they're the ones that are going to make someone win the next grant, win the next scholarship. People are always hesitant giving someone for the first time. So make these as big and important as the big opportunities that you yearn for, however small they may look to you. That's my take-home message for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Datai, and thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thanks for the opportunity.